My name is Butch Grimes, and I'm a caregiver and an advocate for Alzheimer's. On behalf of my mother, her name is Gloria Grimes. My relationship with my mother was wonderful. Great family life, very supportive. My mother was a driving force in my life, and that's why I am the person I am today, and especially with Alzheimer's, because, without her energy that's instilled in me, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Well, I started noticing the change with my mother probably about 6 years ago. And subtle moments, subtle things that she was doing. It's so funny, when you talk about change, especially with Alzheimer's, most people are in denial. And I think I went through a denial period as well, where we see things, but we don't want to accept it because it's really not what we're used to. So we don't know what to look for. And I started seeing her she was becoming a little more peculiar, doing things around the neighborhood, out in coming out late at night, which she never did. She was up more. And those kind of things started bringing more awareness that something was wrong. Well, I did talk to my mother when I first noticed it, just in some dialogue, just to keep it simple. Nothing major, but one thing I found is that, especially when they're going through that change or they're starting to act a little differently, doesn't matter what you say, most times they don't understand it anyway. You're the one that really has to understand that they don't understand it. The problem is folks talk at their loved one thinking they're supposed to be disciplined, and they're really not. As I always say, we become the adult and they become the child. And it's hard for some folks to realize that, but it's true. Alzheimer's is a silent epidemic because people are just jaded by being secretive. They're embarrassed. That's why we have so many grandmothers and loved ones in the back room. In the old days, you would go by somebody's house and say, "Hey, where's your auntie?" "Oh, she's in the back." That's because they didn't really want it. Plus, we didn't have a name for it. Now we have a name. We have a label. It's called Alzheimer's, or it's called dementia. And unfortunately, in the Black community, we're very secret. In the minority community, not just the Black community, but the minority community, we have a stigma now that we need to keep it quiet. We're private. And unfortunately, that is something that we got to get out of, because we got to recognize the fact that we have to address it. And I think that's why we're here today. We have to be more educational. We can't just use Alzheimer's as a label to raise money, and we can't use Alzheimer's as a label to bring awareness to something we're doing. We have to be more educational and proactive. And I'll tell you a good example. I started a newspaper. Why? Because I realized, and when I started it, people were saying, "You're crazy, newspapers are dying." Well, they're not dying, because if you think about it, seniors and baby boomers still have that coffee table mentality. They want to still read something while they drink their coffee or tea. And we have to do something else. We have to be ambassadors for our especially the Black community. When people noticed that I started talking about my mother's condition, I got a little flack, and I did it on social media. And why? Because, again, I went through a lot of things with my mother. It was a daunting experience, and I wanted to make sure that other people didn't go through what I went through. So what did I do? I put it out there to the world, because it was really, truly a passion project for me. It wasn't that I wanted to be that person that was in denial and keeping it quiet. I felt like if I could help somebody else, then I've done my job. Because I really, truly feel that I need to be an ambassador for this, because that's the way my mother was. She was very active in the community. She was outspoken, and I know she wouldn't have a problem with it. And if it was me, she would be doing the same thing. I started out being the caregiver for my mother. I had to move her from her home into my home. That was a change by itself. So, of course, trying to understand the disease, it was really tough. And I think I stress it even more because I'm a male. It's different when you're talking about a male taking care of their mother, because the key point is How do I change my mother's diaper? That's tough, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning. It really wakes you up and makes you say, man, I got to step up and I got to do what I got to do. When it got too bad, I always said I would never put my mother in a facility. But I realized I was the only one taking care of her. My brother is in Texas. He's phenomenal. He's so supportive, but he's not here. And you got to have all hands on deck because it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. There's no, let me take a break. Because when your loved one has Alzheimer's, they're constantly moving and grooving and they're into stuff because they are children. I tell folks all the time, I know it's tough to believe, but your parent is now the child and you are now the adult. And the support, when I first started, I did a program called L's for Alzheimer's. And the reason why I created the program is because where my mother was in a facility, there was a little lady that had duct tape on her shoes. And I was wondering, why does she have duct tape? And the caregiver said, because we've been contacting her son for 3 months and he hasn't brought her any new shoes. So I went out, brought her some shoes, and when I came and gave them to her, she looked at me and she said, for me? I said, yes, for you. And we put them on her feet and she hugged me and she said, I love you. And that just resonated and it touched my heart. But at the same time, I would see my mom every day at the facility because I try to tell folks, if you're gonna put your loved one in a memory care facility, the memory care facility is only as good as you are. You need to be there all the time at all varied hours of the day and night. And so about a month later, I walked in and this little lady that I bought the shoes for, now remember, she has dementia. She saw me from across the room and rushed over and she just grabbed me and hugged me and she said, I love you. This lady has dementia. How would she even remember that I gave her these shoes? So it tells you sometimes that the heart can permeate Alzheimer's. My life has changed a lot because I'm a lot more conscious. I pay more attention than I probably ever have before. And I pay more attention to the people around me because the folks that are around me every day I love, and I want to make sure that they understand and are healthy because we actually have a lot more dementia-related diseases going on than we know around us. But the problem is we're in such denial, we don't pay attention until it's too late. And because I'm a caregiver that was in the OJT phase, I was on the job training and learning, I understand that you gotta pay attention so that you won't get caught up in that situation where you look up and your parent is out the door, or you left the knives in the drawer, or you didn't remove the cleaning solutions in the house, because you gotta dementiarize your home. And a lot of people don't think about these little things that can help keep their loved ones safe. So that really helped me a lot. I manage my stress in a lot of ways because everybody that knows me and sees me, and I'm very public, you know, I'm not a private person. I'm very active in the community. I'm on social media, and I do a lot of fishing. I have a boat. I spend a lot of time in Catalina. I do a lot of golf. I travel, but I really spend a lot of me time too. And I think, you know, the hustle and bustle that we think we're doing is really doing a lot for us. It's really not. It's hurting us. We have to stop, reflect. We need to have some meditative time to really get into ourselves. And we need to pay attention to our own bodies and our own mental capacity. So if we feel like we're slipping a little, it tells you you need to take a break and slow down and get yourself together for the next day. Caregiver support is important because you can't do it by yourself. But you don't know that if you haven't had somebody else to help you with it. You know, as a big, strong man, you think, I can conquer the world. Unfortunately, one thing that I found out is that men are not cut out for caregiving. Because if you look, the highest percentage of dementia patients are women. And men are going to be the ones that have to step up, like I have with my mother, and take care of their wives, their girlfriends, their mothers, their aunts, whomever. We're not cut out for that. We're cut out for football and being tough and rough and just doing what we want. But unfortunately, we're now at a new game that we have to really step up our game because we got to be prepared for this. And I think at the same time, I know myself, I'm a lot more conscious, and I do things to make sure that hopefully I can help somebody else. Well, I started, who's going to take care of me? Because one day I was sitting up and I was having one of those really rough days with my mom, and I looked at her, and when I wanted to cry, I said, who's going to take care of me? And it just stuck. And it told me, you know what? That's what I need to name my nonprofit. Who's going to take care of me? Now, for the first 3 or 4 years, I didn't have a nonprofit. And I funded all the projects myself. And primarily because I knew people really needed them. And so part of that is when I was telling you the story about the lady with the shoes, I started doing more investigation and said, let me look at other facilities around town, and especially in the minority community. There's a shortage of goods. People don't have the money to fund their project. They don't have the money to take care of their loved ones. So as I identified some of these facilities, I realized that's why when you walk in and the smell is so bad, because somebody's been sitting in their feces for the whole day because they don't have enough diapers. They don't have enough briefs. They don't have a change of clothes. They don't have toiletries. So with who's going to take care of me, the first year we started out, we raised about 3,000 diapers, 4,000 diapers. We didn't ask for money. All I did was went on social media and asked my friends, just bring me some briefs, bring me some toiletries, whatever you can, when you shop, pick up something for me as well. And as of last year, we've given out up to 10,000 briefs to 4 facilities. And it's just been a phenomenal program. And last year was the first year that we actually had to have a U-Haul truck follow our party bus, where we take 35 people into the facilities and greet all of the dementia patients with these goods and the staff. The establishment of the male support group came about because the large amount of folks with dementia are women. The highest percentage are women. And I realize there's a void in our community because I watch who walks in my office and I watch who talks to me when I'm out and about. And it's men that are saying, hey, Butch, I see you on social media and I see that you're really caring for your mom. And my wife is now acting a little funny and I don't know what to do. I need some help. And I realize that the men are really lost in that mission. So in stepping up and creating a men's support group, what it's done now is been able to bring men out of the closet to discuss their situations with their loved one that they probably wouldn't discuss at their local bar, or they wouldn't discuss when they're hanging out with their friends on the golf course. But in that collective setting, they've been able to come together and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. And I have to say this, my last support group, I don't think there was a dry eye in the room. I had about 25 guys, and it was just amazing to me how emotional it was, and that by itself told me we got to do more. Well, the unexpected joys of caring for a loved one with dementia-related disease is that, you see things that you probably never paid attention to because it slowed your life down. I know for a fact when my mom came down with the disease, or she was coming down with it, I got to spend a lot more time as an adult. As an adult, we tend to be a lot more active, busy, and that gave me an opportunity to really sit down and look at her. And plus, I got to see the childlike side of her. The point of being a disciplinarian is one thing, but now the tables have turned, and now I really get to get into her, and we get to feel each other, because now she's something I've already been through. For our community to have an event that acknowledges Alzheimer's and caregiving, and I think is wonderful. I think it's wonderful because we have to put more awareness to our people in our community. And the bottom line, anytime we get an opportunity, other than not being just a fundraiser, but a message to be able to really put that message out there to expose the disease. Because we now have a label, as I said earlier, we have a label with dementia and Alzheimer's. And most people don't even know the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. But most people don't realize that Alzheimer's is not the disease. The dementia is the big one. Alzheimer's is the small one. Not small, but it's part of dementia. And so when you start to explain that to folks, they really wake up, because they don't understand Parkinson's is also part of dementia, and Lewy bodies and so on. But I think anytime we can have an opportunity to educate our community, I think it's a fantastic opportunity, because we need it. We need to do more of it. And sometimes I feel like the Lone Ranger out here, because in the Black community, sometimes I'm really the only voice. And I know there's some big organizations that do a lot, and they raise a lot of money, but I would like to see more of that come into the communities that really need the help, because I know most of my funding all comes from me. And we need that help because families need that help. And by that, we're going to continue to raise goods and services and education as much as we can, so that we can continue to educate our people. Well, I did grow up skating. I skated on my Sport Kings or my Street Kings with the little metal wheels, and I think we all did. I didn't do much of the organized rinks, because that was in my younger years, and then after that I was playing football, and skating wasn't really on my list of things to do. But I have relatives, my sister skates, and she's been an active skater, and she travels around and she does all that. And then one day I can remember she asked me, she said, "Why don't you come out and skate?" I said, "I can still skate." So I did one night, and actually did pretty good until I started going backwards and fell. And I said, that just means I'm not skating anymore. But yes, I will. I definitely will come out and skate, especially for the cause. Anything to do with Alzheimer's, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make sure we get that message out.